First down, another fake.
The reverse.
With Jameson Williams, the speedster.
The cut.
Williams cuts up. 25,
Speed.
20. Still on his feet. Jameson Williams scores.
Has the ability to stop the explosive plays. You see Jameson Williams, he starts out as the wide receiver left, a little flip reverse. Frank Ragnow, the center.
Welcome back, sports fans. Thank you for returning for another video. I'm your host, Johnny Gaz. Today we're going to turn the page positively, coming off the negative news of last week. We're going to talk about the 2024 Detroit Lions as we head into the draft and into next season. Quick news update, we cannot move forward before we talk about the Cam Sutton update. The Lions have released Cam Sutton very soon after they got word of the alleged incident in Florida. As of Sunday, March 24th, he is currently still on the run from authorities for alleged battery in the state of Florida. Again, we'll save all the horrific details for the social media and all major news outlets. You can certainly go find that information. But as far as how it relates to the Lions here as we head into 2024, courtesy of Pride of Detroit, the Lions released Cam Sutton with a June 1st designation, spreading his cap penalty out over 2 seasons. For now, the Lions are on the hook for $12.68 million of cap in 2024. The Lions have petitioned the NFL to void Sutton's base salary for violation of player conduct, which will likely reduce the Lions' cap penalty to $2.18 million at some point here in 2024. The Lions will incur a cap penalty of $6.54 million in 2025, regardless of the ruling. Additionally, the Lions can attempt to recover $8.72 million that has already been paid to Sutton, but they would need to sue him after the legal process plays out in his criminal case. So the Lions acted swiftly, they were quick, and we will move forward with a hole at cornerback for the Detroit Lions. All right, so let's move forward. Let's talk about some seriously positive business here with the 2024 Detroit Lions. We have talked in excess about the 2023 season and how magical and historic it was for the Detroit Lions organization. There are many, many reasons why there has been the turnaround here for the Detroit Lions. But as we leave 2023 and enter 2024, we're going to focus on the offense. We know that Ben Johnson is one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. He has now made the Detroit Lions offense efficient and to elite status. He has decided to return to the Lions in 2024 after being courted by several organizations over the past few seasons, but he would like to return to the Lions to hopefully bring them their first Super Bowl championship in the organization's history. That, along with the continuity of the offensive line, we know that that is their ultimate strength. They rode that offensive line all season long and have so for the past few seasons. Their offense has gotten steadily better the last 3 years, and they have now put themselves in a position where they could be the best offense in the NFL. Before we go any farther, make sure to hit that like button if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. We are on the road to 500 subscribers, so if you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss any future videos here on the channel. I really appreciate your time. Let's get into today's topic. So before we go any farther, let's take a look and sort of recap what the Lions have done so far in this offseason. Players that they have brought back, still left unsigned, and the moves that they've made as we get a little bit closer to the draft and overall the 2024 season. Again, we're focusing on the offense today. So players that currently remain unsigned: quarterback Nate Sudfeld, running back Mohamed Ibrahim, fullback Jason Kabinda, tight end Anthony Ferkser, O-lineman Michael Schofield, mainly a tackle. We know about Hali Puluvati Vatai, the guard. And lastly, but not least, wide receiver Josh Reynolds. Let's spend just a moment on him. Currently, he is being courted by several other organizations. He is a free agent. He was very reliable and available for the Lions. We know that. We've talked about that in past videos here on the channel. But it all looks like it's leading towards him signing with another team. So we're going to approach this video that we have a hole at wide receiver, and we'll talk about that in the future. If Josh Reynolds does end up re-signing, it truly doesn't change a lot of my opinion and focus for this session here today. But it does appear he's going to take on another contract and be with another organization in 2024. So that will leave some discussion about wide receiver here. Moving forward, We know David Blau and both Teddy Bridgewater quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks for Lions, have both retired. We've lost a few players on offense. Tight end Zach Ertz, who was really just a fill-in piece at the very end of the year, a free agent signing who really didn't see the field much. And then, of course, offensive guard Jonah Jackson. Maybe the biggest hole, the biggest free agent leave for this offseason for the Lions. It did leave a huge hole at guard, and we'll talk about what the Lions did to fill that here in just a moment. Lions applied tender offers to running back Craig Reynolds as well as Zonovan Knight, tight end Brock Wright, guard Coyote Owasika, as well as edge James Houston. But again, today's focus will be on the offense, and they ended up re-signing tight end Shane Zylstra. They did also re-sign guard Graham Glasgow, which again was a fantastic re-sign and started the process of solidifying their guard position as Jonah Jackson left. They also re-signed offensive lineman and tackle Dan Skipper and re-signed wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, as far as acquisitions this offseason, the Lions ended up signing free agent offensive guard Kevin Zeitler. And along with Graham Glasgow, that is sort of their solution to losing Jonah Jackson. We know Graham Glasgow has a lot of versatility up front. He can play both guard positions. He can play the center position. But now with Jonah Jackson leaving, we know we still have Frank Ragnow as sort of that anchor of the offensive line. We're now going to have Graham Glasgow on one side and Pro Bowler Kevin Zeitler on the other. I think it was a fantastic way to shore up your offensive line, make sure you didn't lose much by the departure of Jonah Jackson, and really set them up for what I think will be some great continuity heading into 2024. Now let's take a look at the offensive depth chart as we get a little bit closer to the 2024 draft. Currently, we're about 3 weeks away. We've talked about in previous videos areas that the Lions can improve. Well, let's start here with the offensive depth chart and where we currently stand. Let's start at the top. We know, and we've talked about him in previous videos, Jarod Goff. He is the Lions' most valuable player. This team will go as far as Jarod Goff can take them. Now, there's a lot of factors that cause Jarod Goff to be a better player. Again, we've talked about this in previous sessions and other videos. The offensive line's importance in what Jarod Goff can be is so vital. Jarod Goff has proven that he is a top-tier quarterback. We don't need to mention the word elite. We can maybe save that for another video. But Jarod Goff is this team's MVP. He's proven that he can be the guy to take them to the next level. I believe that Jarod Goff can win them a Super Bowl. Past Jarod Goff, we know the Lions drafted Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round last year. Really, this is just a project player. I think as much as you hear fans talk about, mostly Detroit fans talk about wanting to have a more athletic quarterback, the people that think that Jarod Goff isn't good enough will lean on the fact that we have Hendon Hooker. He is not ready for this. I think Jarod Goff has proven that he's the guy until he's not the guy anymore. And I think it puts him in a great position because now Hendon Hooker can just basically learn behind him. He can learn the system, learn the playbook, and ultimately really only be used when needed. And knowing Ben Johnson and his creativity on offense, I have a small feeling that they'll work him in to certain packages there in the offense as he gets more comfortable. Now, at running back, I think it's very important that we spotlight the acquisition that they made in the draft last year. It was a very ridiculed pick in the 1st round, but Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is an X factor for the Lions as we head into 2024. I think we got a small portion of the bigger picture of what Jahmyr Gibbs can be. Speed, power, vision. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a great change of pace back in comparing him to David Montgomery, who again was a free agent acquisition last year as well. So they really have a fantastic two-headed monster at running back to play off of everything else that we talked about. Jarod Goff, the offensive line, play action. So many good things happen, and it really stems off of the fact that they have 2 running backs that they trust and rely on now in this offense. Now let's talk wide receivers. We spent a lot of time in a previous video discussing the importance of Amon-Ra St. Brown to your organization. We talked about the importance of the Lions making the commitment to him in his next contract, whether that be prior to the 2024 season or before we get into next season. I think he is your superstar wide receiver. He is your workhorse. He is an organization pillar player. and it's a fantastic guy to have as your number one wide receiver. Past him, you have Khalif Raymond, you have Jameson Williams, and of course we talked about the re-signing of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Past that, I think you have guys that will kind of struggle as your depth piece on the roster, guys like Antoine Green, Traquan Smith, Maurice Alexander, Tom Kennedy. I really think that when you look at the big picture, yes, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, but the piece that you're hoping to get more of and really will take the next step as we head into 2024 is Jameson Williams, and we'll talk about him in more detail in just a moment. At tight end, we know we have another fantastic Brad Holmes draft pick that came up huge in 2024 as a rookie. Tight end Sam Laporta. In the passing game, in the blocking game, he is so versatile. He really proved to be one of the better tight ends in the league last year as a rookie. So you are in a great position there. Behind him, you have guys like Brock Wright and Shane Zylstra, who we just said the Lions brought back heading into the season to sort of complete the room. And you still have James Mitchell on the roster as well. Now, let's talk about the offensive line. Again, we just got off a video just a while back saying that this group of 5 guys is the best offensive line in football, and I'm sticking to that. Losing Jonah Jackson was a hole at guard. Refilling that hole with Kevin Zeitler was probably the best replacement you could have. They re-signed Graham Glasgow. They have Zeitler. You have Frank Ragnow as your centerpiece, the center who we know has struggled with injuries, but he is tough as nails, and he is one of the best centers in football. At tackle, you have left tackle Taylor Decker, organizational guy, emotional leader, been with this team forever. And then, of course, the best offensive lineman in football, right tackle Penei Sewell. These 5 guys will be the reason why this team wins a Super Bowl. This is the reason why the Lions could have the best offense in the NFL in 2024. It all predicates from these 5 people, the offensive line. Everything else works off of that. Jarod Goff is a better quarterback because of that offensive line. The running backs are better. The run game, the play action game, the wide receivers all work better because we can protect Jarod Goff and we can set up plays on the ground. Now, in losing Jonah Jackson, you may lose a little bit of running game prowess on the offensive line, but Kevin Zeitler is a better pass blocker. So you're kind of getting, you're kind of shuffling there. I just don't think overall that they lost anything in losing Jonah Jackson. They made the perfect signing with Kevin Zeitler, and the continuity that I keep mentioning over and over and over again, I think remains in place because he's a veteran and he's coming into a situation where he wants to win and wants to be a part of the best offensive line in football. Now, behind them, and we talked about that in the previous video, we won't beat that up, is where I think we still need some work. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Now, statistically in 2023, the offense really took the next step. As you see here, there are several areas where the Lions were in the top 5 as far as offensive statistic categories. And I expect this to continue to increase in 2024. We see here, just as an overall view, points per game, the Lions ranked 5th in the league. Rush yards per game at 135.9, again, was 5th in the league. And they were 4th in the league in pass yards per game at 270.9. They were 3rd in the NFL in total offense as far as yardage is concerned. I believe that with what we talked about with the offensive line, another year of Ben Johnson in this system with Jarod Goff, increased workloads for guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, tight end Sam Laporta, which is hard to believe because he was a huge piece of the offense already last year. But if those guys continue their ascension, I think everything else holds true with these numbers, and you'll see that get even better and better. So if we're going to make the argument for the Lions having the best offense in football, I think we've laid out a few things here that would lead them in that direction. So let's talk about them. Let's put a spotlight on tight end Sam Laporta, who will be entering his 2nd season. You can make the argument that he was the best tight end in football last year, truthfully. And if you look at the statistics, you'll understand why. Again, rookie season, he had 86 catches for 889 yards and 10 scores. He was tied for the lead in reception touchdowns for the Lions. Okay, but not only that, he was vital in their run game, being able to shift all over these formations to be able to set up their offense in so many different ways, cut back blocks, getting down the field and making blocks, being able to break tackles after catches. I mean, there's not much that Sam Laporta can't do. And truthfully, I think, again, the statistics and the eye test would tell you that if he wasn't the best tight end in football in 2023, as long as he remains healthy, he will be in 2024. Jahmyr Gibbs, you're lightning to David Montgomery's thunder. Another reason why this offense will take the next step in 2024. Jahmyr Gibbs, that pick in the first round last year was ridiculed. You don't take running backs in the first round. You don't pay running backs. I can't tell you how often we heard that. But Brad Holmes, the organization, has proven they're going to take their guy. Jahmyr Gibbs was their guy, and they took him in the first round, and they got everything and more out of this kid. He was fantastic, not only in the run game, but also in the passing game. He is so versatile. He's got speed. He's got good hands. He's got great vision. He's actually a little more powerful than you would think based on his size. He ended up the season with 182 attempts for 945 yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. Okay, which is just incredible. I mean, not only that, but he was that weapon out of the backfield. And there's so many different ways that you can use Jahmyr Gibbs in this offense. I really believe that he is going to take much more of an active role in the offense in 2024. You'll probably see David Montgomery, his carries sort of lighten up a little bit. Both of those guys almost rushed for 1,000 yards. Again, we talked about how great the offensive line is and ultimately makes these guys better. Well, you add the playmaking skills of Jahmyr Gibbs and what we expect for him to take that next step in 2024, I think it's going to be very dangerous. The running game, I think, again, will be a huge piece to this offense. It will be a reason why they can do so many other things, in the Ben Johnson scheme. So Jahmyr Gibbs, have to spotlight him because I think he is a huge piece to this as we move forward. And we got to talk about Jamo, okay? To me, we talked about the X factor, Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think the biggest question as far as can one certain player truly take the next step? I mean, the projection of Sam Laporta and the projection of Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, you can almost see them going in the right direction. Jamo, throughout his career with the Lions, has been very up and down. We know we've had the suspension issues last year, the injury concerns as he was drafted, and even as we went into this last year in 2023, and even as we entered 2023 and he finally started to get into these games, there was a lot of questions about, is he that guy? Is he true? Was he worthy of moving up as a first-round pick 2 years ago to get him? If Jameson Williams becomes the player that he was in college and has the potential to be, then the Lions do not have a hole at wide receiver, regardless of if Josh Reynolds comes back or signs elsewhere. Now, I talked about in a previous video that they still may need a size guy at wide receiver because obviously Jameson Williams, 6'1", Amon-Ra St. Brown is about that size, if not a little bit shorter. Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones, none of these guys are huge, tall, big receivers. So they may still have a need for that guy. But as far as playmaking is concerned, Jameson Williams seemed to prove himself as we got later into the season and then even the playoffs. Let's actually take a look at some of his game breakdowns. A couple things I want to point out for Jamo in 2023. Again, he had the suspension early on. He missed the first 4 games. He finally starts to get in. So you see a couple receptions per game, but just not much. He had a TD against Tampa Bay, the long bomb that sort of set them up for that win, which was great. But it wasn't a very athletic bomb play, and you're still kind of left going, okay, well, 2 catches in a game, that's not enough for a guy you drafted to sort of be a premier wide receiver on your team. Then the terrible week in Baltimore happened where he had 6 targets, 0 receptions. And I can tell you at that point as a Lions fan, listening to sports radio, just looking at it in general from my perspective, you started to think, oh, this isn't working out. This isn't going to be the thing. But slowly after that, they kind of got the momentum back after that Baltimore game. They stacked up a couple wins. And you start to see here, 2 catches, kind of getting more involved in, some other aspects of the offense. He was great blocking downfield. So just kind of showing the effort was there. But then as we got towards that last quarter of the season, there you see 4 catches against Denver for 47 yards, 5 catches against Minnesota for 43 yards, 2 against Dallas for 69 yards. Getting more involved in the run game. For instance, in New Orleans, although he only had the 1 reception, he had the sweep around and the dive Superman end zone touchdown. And can't go without mentioning then he started to even play better in the playoffs. Had a few catches against the Rams, a few catches against Tampa Bay, but then really showed himself in the NFC Championship game. We opened up with that clip of that fantastic play that, again, the reverse, where he basically runs past everybody, makes a cut, powers through the defense and scores a touchdown, really put them up in that game and started off that game so well for the Lions. He ended up scoring another touchdown later in that game. So, again, he just showed all of his skill sets kind of towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. And I really think that if that then continues into 2024, we're seeing videos of him working out with Teddy Bridgewater in the offseason this year again. So I think his head's on right. I think the talent is there, and they really need him to step up. And I think he will. And if you think about what he could give the Lions, you add Amon-Ra St. Brown to that. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. You have young, dynamic pieces on offense that, again, ties it all back to the Lions having the best offense in 2024. So after looking at all that and kind of evaluating what the Lions offseason has been so far, I really don't think that they have a hole truly to fill as we get towards the draft. I mean, if we're just focusing on offense, I really don't think there is a hole. Now, we talked about the wide receivers and potentially a need for kind of a size guy, somebody with a little bit more body work, somebody they can get into the red zone and trust kind of on a throw-up ball. And again, we talked about getting nitpicky on these certain things, but again, that's because they just don't have a major hole to fill. So where I think they still have some room for improvement, again, would say maybe another athlete, size athlete at wide receiver. As much as we've talked about the strength and the true power piece of this team being the offensive line, I think they need to continue to build depth behind their starters, especially in the middle at guard and at center. I think eventually Taylor Decker, you're going to have to look at another contract for him, and with his age and what he's ultimately willing to give you, I don't know if he's in the true future plan. So again, you got to keep planning on guys behind them. So whether that be more free agent moves for younger pieces, or again, as we know, adding them in the draft, I really think they need to continue to bolster the backups in the offensive line. Now, this is more special teams, but if we're considering offense and scoring, yes, they did sign their kicker back, Michael Badgley, but we know the Lions weren't necessarily 100% satisfied with him in 2023. So is that still something that you look at, as a point-scoring piece as part of your offense as we head into 2024? But again, we're looking at the bigger picture and not finding major holes to fill, which gives a lot of positivity heading into 2024. And again, when you think about what the Lions now like to do as part of their organization view, their organizational strategy is draft well, cultivate those guys in the draft, and then pay those pillar players. And if they continue to do that, and they do that with these small, little holes, and again, they're not holes, if they do that with these little areas where they can continue to improve, they're putting themselves in a position where they then become one of the best organizations in football. Based on everything we've talked about here today, there are truly not many weaknesses on this Detroit offense, starting with the scheme of Ben Johnson, the fact that the Lions now have ultimate faith in their quarterback, Jarod Goff. They'll have another year with Ben Johnson and the offense in general. They're going to continue to build on the rookies from last year, the pillar players that we've mentioned in today's video. I believe will continue to get better. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, on top of the organizational pillars you already have on offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. It goes on and on. You are cultivating pieces that will continue this offense's ascension in 2024. The offensive line, to me, is the most important piece. They did the necessary things to make sure the Jonah Jackson departure did not hurt them. They've replaced him with Pro Bowler Kevin Zeitler, and that O-line will continue to be the best O-line in football. In turn, if everything remains in place, of course we know there will be injuries. Of course we know there will be other moves. We have the draft, so there will be more pieces involved here. But from what I'm seeing from my side, from everything we've looked at here today, I believe the Lions will have the best offense in football in 2024. So what do you guys think? With everything we've talked about here today, can the Lions be the best offense in the NFL in 2024? Let me know what you think. Definitely hit me up in the comments section. I appreciate you guys coming along for another video. If you liked what we did here today, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notify bell so you don't miss any future videos here with Johnny Gaz Sports. We're going to have a full draft preview coming up as we get a little bit closer to the 2024 draft in Detroit. That should be a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Make sure to take care of yourself. Mental health is most important. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you on future videos. Thank you so much again. I appreciate your time. You guys have a fantastic day.